it's hard right now because we can't see what God is doing in our lives. But as we look at Hannah's life and the surrender, the willingness to be used of God, the willingness to be obedient to God, and now she has a child that is saying, Lord, speak to me, your servant hears. But what would have happened if Hannah had prayed and went back on her word? Well, obviously it would have had an effect on Samuel. Samuel would have been placed in where he was. And the other thing is Samuel had front row seats to watch Samuel's sons. And the mistakes and their failures, and to watch and to learn. And friends, here's the thing. We watch and we learn. We see people make mistakes. Don't criticize them. Listen to me.
That's right.
It's only by the grace of God you're not making them. And furthermore, this is where judging comes in. This is there where Samuel was. Obviously, you've had godly parents that, or have been brought into church, whether it be through Sunday school or whatever. Make sure you don't make those mistakes, or you can repeat those mistakes. So Samuel's saying, your servant hears. Your servant hears. Have you ever asked God, what do you look like? God, what do you sound like? I know that's interesting. Interesting concept, but when I say that I want to know who Jesus is, I don't know that it's so important what kind of accent, but I think God wants to show us His voice so that we hear it. You know, I was thinking in my mind, we were singing the songs, and my mind began to wonder, well, what would God's voice sound like? You know, I guess, I don't know, in my mind, I think that God would have a voice that is comforting. I think His voice could be raised to let people know I mean business. I don't think that He was soft-spoken when He cleaned the temple out. I don't think He was interested in comforting them. I think He was interested in chastising them and saying, you stop it. You get my point? You know how it is? Your kids really don't want to listen until you hit that decibel. And then they know. So for me, it's not my mom, it's my wife. And I know I'm in trouble because, like my mom, she gets my middle name in it. You know, you think, oh, I'm going to get out of the house and not have to worry about those things. I hear Brian Thomas and I still strikes fear to my heart. What did I do now? But I think, Lord, I want to know when you're speaking to me. I want to know your voice, God. And here's Samuel saying, God, speak to me. And I think how often we live our life, and again, with our backgrounds, or no matter what our heritage is, we can know God personally, and we can be to the place that God can speak to our hearts, and we can know His voice. Yes. But do we even ask Him, God, what do you sound like? God, what do you look like? What is your... And again, it's not about being able to paint a picture. It's about fully understanding who God is. You know, I don't think God is some mysterious voice in the background, like the familiar story of the Wizard of Oz. Is some fraud behind smokes and all this other stuff. I don't believe it's consistent with who God is. I think God is someone approachable, someone that we can know, someone that we can laugh with and talk with, and someone we can know His voice. And I don't know that we know His voice as an accent or a certain way of speaking, but there can be a confidence in our hearts that we have heard from Him. And so, I love this story. It starts out by a mom surrendering, yielding, and a son picking up on that. You know, he heard that story growing up. I imagine Samuel was sitting there, and maybe Eli would come and look at him and shake his head and say, Samuel, do you know why you're here? Oh, you've only told me 100 times, but Eli would say, son, it just overwhelms my mind to know what sacrifice that your mom made and your dad made. Because if dad wasn't on board, it would have been a bad situation. That's the other thing. Do you ever think about this stuff? I mean, seriously. What dad wants to give his son up and not be part of his life? I mean, I can't think of saying, okay, someone else is going to raise my son. No, I'm going to raise my son. And I'm going to teach him how to do this, and I'm going to teach him how to do that. And I'm going to be part of his life. And yet the reality is, he went along with it. Her commitment to God, and I just, mind blown. When was the last time you sat and thought about Samuel's dad? Again, taking time to know who God is and seeing that God's hand weaving through the structure of the Bible and people. Again, the dad is as much of a role as the mom is in being surrendered to God. Can I just make a little bunny trail here? There's not one of you sitting here tonight that can't be used of God. Whether you're the main character or a supporting character, God can still use you. Isn't that incredible? And when you get to heaven, you'll receive the same amount of glory and honor because you did everything that God wanted you to do. So here we have this incredible story of Hannah and her husband, of Eli and his kids, of who God is. And so tonight, this story of who God is. And so tonight, this story is yes, about these areas of relationship, but more than that, it's about us knowing who God is. Speak. And the Lord said to Samuel, behold, I will do a thing in Israel at which both the ears of everyone that heareth it shall tingle. In that day I will perform against Eli all the things which I have spoken concerning his house. When I begin, I also will make an end. For I have told him that I will judge his house forever. The iniquity which he knoweth, because his sons made themselves vile, and he restrained them not. You want to talk about disciplining your child? Right there you go. And therefore I have a sword sworn unto the house of Eli, that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be purged with sacrifice nor offering forever. And Samuel lay until the morning, and opened the house of the Lord. And Samuel feared to show Eli his vision. Now, here's people that Samuel has grown up with, have been a part of his life, in his life. In many ways, his mentor, Eli, is. And he's going to tell him, your sons are going to die. Of course, I don't know about you, but that might be a little bit troublesome to me. Furthermore, to hear it coming from a kid. You know? Friends, this is more than just an individual standing on his own. This is a family that built a foundation that enabled him to be where God wanted him to be used by God. They didn't hinder that. And then the outcome is a man who's willing to do what God wants him to do. And the other thing is, I notice here that Samuel wasn't cocky about it. You know, in your face. He was grieved. I mean, these are people that he's grown up with. I don't know. Have you guys ever really thought about that in this story? Stop long enough to think of what it must have been like for Samuel? You know, I don't know. Then Eli called Samuel and said, Samuel, my son. And he answered, Here am I. And he said, What is the thing the Lord hath said unto thee? I pray thee, hide it not from me. God, do so to thee, and more also, if thou hide anything from me of all the things that he hath said unto thee. And Samuel told him every whit, and hid nothing from him. And he said, It is the Lord, let him do what seemeth him good. You know, Eli sees his mistake. But you know what I don't see? Yes, there are consequences for their actions.